Okay, in today's lab, what I'd like to do is take a look at a website and its potential vulnerabilities and talk about safe and secure code design and some of the more unsafe practices that some web developers use. So I'm going to first start by powering on my Ubuntu. This is going to be our web server. Previously, we installed Apache, and we're going to use Apache in conjunction with PHP to be running our new website. So I powered on my Ubuntu, and I'm just going to open the console. And what I'm going to do is I first need to get the vulnerable website. If we click on our CD within our vSphere, looks like we have an image attached. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if that is the right image. I'm going to go to my files, and if I go to my okay, it's the CD. It's called desktop. I do see that I've got a shoplifting CD already in, but if you didn't have that, I'm just going to disconnect here, just so that way you can see where I'm getting this from. So if I click on the CD, if you did not have a disk attached, I'm going to connect to an ISO image on a data store. And I do want to connect up to the website ISO. If you're not sure where that is, if I hit the up arrow till it goes away, I've got my T_ISO image. And then in there, I should have an ethical hacking folder. Inside the ethical hacking folder, I've got a folder called websites. And inside there, I've got my disk. So I'm just going to attach the website.iso. And if I go to my files, and if I go to the disk called desktop, I see shoplifting tar.gzip. So I'm just going to grab the shoplifting file and bring that to my desktop. So right now, this is shoplifting.tar.gzip. This is a compression that's often used within Linux. So what I want to do is I want to take the contents of this file and I want to decompress it into the var www HTML folder. So that's our default website. So I'm going to do that through the terminal. And I'm going to do it through the terminal so that way I can use the sudo command because typically people can't write to the var www directory. So if I start with sudo, that will give me the ability to write files to that specific folder. And what I want to do is I want to use the tar command. So the tar command will allow me to decompress. So I'm going to use some flags here. I'm going to use a flag that is X, which is to extract. I'm going to use V for both so that way I can see it. Z is for the zip compression, and F is holding the folder structure. So what I want to do after putting those flags in is I need to path to our, sometimes it's called a tarball. We want to go to our zipped folder. So I'm going to start by using a / so that way I'm from the root and I want to go home. So I'm going to type in HO, hit the tab key, it fills in home. Student is ST, hit the tab key, we've got the student user. And then it's desktop, but I need to do it with a capital D and it is case sensitive. So I'm going to do desktop. And then on my desktop I should have a shoplifting, SH, and I hit my tab key. So then the shoplifting.tar.gzip is there. So what I want to do is I want to use a dash and a capital C, which means copy the contents of this file to a specific folder. So I'm going to go var / VA, I'm hitting the tab key, WW, hit the tab, HT, hit the tab. Okay, so I want to copy whatever is being compressed in this folder into this folder. So I'm going to hit enter. password is password. And at this point, it created a shoplifting folder, and it put a review, an index, and an order.php page in that folder. So what I want to do here is I'm just going to minimize this for now, and I want to test our website and see if it works. So previously we installed Apache, so if I open up Firefox and I type in localhost, the localhost comes to basically the default Apache page saying, hey, it worked. So if I go / and I type in shoplifting, and hit enter, I come to our shoplifting page. So this is our web page. This is the web page that we're going to really take a close look at and examine how it works. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill it out. All right, it's a very simple website. I'm going to type in my first name, my last name, and I'm going to select my product. So let's just say I want to buy some gifts for my coworkers. I would imagine that my coworkers probably would enjoy the Office Monkeys play set, so that way they can sit in their offices and they can play with monkeys and enjoy their time at work. So I've got about 20 coworkers, so I'm gonna need to order 20 of them. Well, 21, because I probably want one for myself. Okay, so I'm gonna click the Buy Now button. So I'm just gonna click Buy Now, and I get a confirmation page. So I see all of the same information put in, and I'm gonna say commit to buy, and at this point I probably really wouldn't commit to buy because that's like almost $400 for my coworkers, and there's no way I'm going to spend that much money. So, but this isn't real. I didn't type in a credit card number, so I'm not being held to anything. So I'm just going to click on the commit to buy, and thank you for our purchase, or thank you for your purchase. So in the real world, the data that we typed in would be stored into a database, and then somebody would come along and they would pick the order, and then they would say, okay, well, we need to ship out 21 monkey sets to Fox Valley Tech, and at that point in time, that order would be processed. Now, I didn't tie in a database. Instead, if I just highlight and drag down, I could see the data that would normally be written to the database. So I've got my information. Now in the real world, it would be more complex than this. I mean, obviously I'd have credit card numbers, and I'd also be dealing with shipping addresses and stuff like that. I'm trying to keep it simple just so that way you get the idea of what we're doing here. So I can see it's gray on gray, so that way it's kind of tricky, but it's there. If you highlight it, you can see what would have been written to the database. So what we want to do is we want to manipulate this website to write something different to the database than what the author of the website intended. That's our goal. So that's what's called e-shoplifting. So there's been some notable cases in the past where people have manipulated websites and actually gotten people to send them refund checks or give them free items because their website was written poorly. This is illegal. I do not recommend it. I know I've had students in the past brag about getting free shipping from Amazon by using this technique, and I often tell them, do you realize that you just gave Amazon your home information and the fact that you just ripped them off? So don't recommend doing it. My goal with this lab is to help students write better code. Okay, so right now we're on our web server, and I don't want any illusion that this trick is being done because we're running from our web server. So what I want to do is I'm going to close down the website, and I'm just going to delete the zip file because we're done with that. And at this point, I'm just going to minimize the Ubuntu. I'm going to go back over to my vSphere, and I'm going to open up our Windows 7 machine. I'm going to open up the console and power it on. So the Windows 7 machine is going to be the customer, the person that's surfing the web, trying to figure out what they want to buy for their coworkers. Now this thing keeps on popping up. So I could go full screen or I can minimize it. So for right now, I'm going to minimize this. Now I need to get the IP address of my Ubuntu machine. In order to get to this machine, I need its IP address. Now there's two ways. There's a really easy way, which is kind of lazy, and there's probably the right way. So I'm going to show you the easy way first. If I need my Ubuntu IP address from within vSphere, if I go to my Ubuntu and go to the Summary tab, it should show the IP address. But because it's not running the VMware tools, it's not. So some machines, if you go to it and you go to the Summary tab, you can get its IP address. Obviously, on the Ubuntu, I didn't install that, so for right now, we can't do it the easy way. So I'm going to show you probably the right way. So from Ubuntu, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my terminal. So I previously typed in TER, which gave me my terminal. Now in Windows, we've got the command window. The CMD is the command window. And in Linux, we've got the terminal. They're both the same thing. It's basically a little DOS window that lets us type in commands. In Windows, if I wanted to get my IP address, I would type in ipconfig as one word. In Linux, or on the Ubuntu machine, what I do is I type in ifconfig. And then I hit enter, and it will do the same thing. So with this ifconfig command, I can see that my Linux machine, my Ubuntu, is running 10.7.66.155. So that is my IP address for this machine. So on my Windows machine, I'm just going to go full screen here. And I'm going to open up Internet Explorer. And I'm just going to type in my Ubuntu's IP address, which was 10.7.66.155. If I hit enter, yay, I see the default page. Alright, so I know that Apache is up and running. And if I go /shoplifting, okay, so I see our beautiful website here. So at this point, I'm running the website and I'm running it on my Windows 7 machine. So I'm just browsing. So my Windows 7 machine is kind of like the general public, somebody out in the general public trying to view a website. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to fill this thing out again. And I'm going to select a product called Office Monkey. And it doesn't matter what product you buy. They're all going to be too expensive. I'm going to buy 21 of them. So at this point in time, what's happened is the first page, this page, when I committed to buy it, took all of these values. These values are currently held within a form, and they threw them up to the server. Now up on the server got the data, and then it rebuilt all of this information within a table. So it just redisplayed it in a way that I can't modify it, and it put it in a table so that way I can confirm it. Now the thing is certain pieces of data needed to be held on this web page. The way that the web works is it's a disconnected state. So I make a request to a web server. The web server then gives me a response back, and then we're done. It doesn't hold any active connection. It waits for the next time I make a connection to it. So somehow I needed to hold something about myself. Now, I also teach the PHP classes, and I know that historically the book has done really bad things, like sticking the customer's ID in a hidden field on the web page. The problem with that is if I right click, I can view source. And there are certain hidden fields, so here's hidden fields. if I see something that says like cust ID or something like that, and it's equal to 123, I may wonder, well, what if I modify that in 124, 125? I can start getting into other people's accounts. All right, so in this case, I see the first name is Joe, last name is Wetzel. I see the item that I got was monkeys. I see the quantity was 21, and I see the item cost. So the item cost here is $17.99. Now, a lot of people say, well, who cares? That's all up on the web server. So it's not like you can hack the web server. Well, in reality, what happened is it is up on the web server, but I requested it within my web browser. So what my web browser did is it downloaded it to my temporary internet files. So even though it looks like it's on the website, this is actually all being viewed from my internet cache. So my internet cache has it, and it's waiting for me to commit to buy, and then it will resubmit all of the things that I previously was in the hidden fields. So what we're going to do is we're gonna manipulate this page. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to go view source. So here's that file. That's the source code. So one thing with websites is everything that's client side can be viewed by the client. So my rule of thumb is anything the user can touch, the user can hack. So we can touch this data, which means we can manipulate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on File, and I'm going to go Save HTML Source. And I'm just going to save this HTML to my desktop, and I'm just going to call it Hack Me. I'm going to hit Enter. And then I'm just going to close the browser down. I'm going to close everything down. And here I've got a file called Hack Me. Now some of the web students may be saying to themselves, oh, whippity-doo, you're modifying a web page on your desktop, which I agree. That is what I'm doing, and it doesn't matter because it's not on the web server. It's not really defacing the website because it's my own local copy. All I ask is you to be patient. Okay, so what I'm going to do is on this web page, I'm just going to right click on it, and I'm going to say Open with Notepad. So I'm just going to open up Notepad here. And here's the web page. So I could make it say anything I want. Instead of monkeys, I can make it say whatever. It doesn't matter. That's the format, and that's not really going to be doing anything special for us. But what I do want to do is I want to manipulate these hidden values here. So I can actually make the hidden values be something different. So if I was on maybe a dating site or something like that, and I saw that my customer ID was, 172, this is where a hacker would change that 172 to a different value, submit it up to the server, and see if they can masquerade as a different individual. But for us, we're just going to try to get a lower price on the monkeys. Now, I don't want them to cut me a check back because usually the payroll department will catch something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm willing to spend a nickel on each one of my coworkers. All right, that seems like a valid price. So what I'm doing is I'm just modifying the item cost. So what actually happens is everything that's within this form tag will be submitted up to the server. So everything that's in these hidden values gets submitted up to the server. Now the problem is I've got order.php. Well, I don't have an order.php right next to me on my desktop. By default, we unzipped all of those files in the same directory, so I didn't have to give it a fully qualified path. It's a relative path. Well, what we did is we modified this page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fully qualify it. So I'm going to go http:// and then I'm going to type in my server's IP address 10.7.66.155/shoplifting /order.php. So at this point, now I'm going to send this request back up to the server. Sometimes I hear people say, that gets can be hacked and posts are more secure. That's why I made this lab. A post is no more secure than a get. I'll show you what a get is in a minute. But right now, posting it is what we're doing. We're posting all of these hidden values back up to the server. And what I did is I modified the item cost to 5 cents. With this being fully qualified, at this point I can just save this file, assuming that my IP address is 155. I don't know if I remember it correctly or not, but we're going to go with it. If I double click on the hack me file, I see everything exactly how it was, because I didn't modify the total cost or the item cost in the table. There's actually hidden values that we can't see. Those I did change. I'm also going to check up here and make sure that I see that this is running off my C drive. So I see that I've got a C:\student desktop hackme.htm. That is the file that I created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a screenshot of this. This is going to be one of the things I'm going to be submitting. So I'm just going to open up WordPad. And I'm going to just take a screenshot of this document. This will be one of the screens that gets submitted. Now after taking that screenshot, I'll be able to tell that you're running off your C drive. I'll be able to tell what the total cost should have been. If I commit to buy, which is a good sign, remember, it looks like I remembered the IP address correctly. Thank you for your purchase. If I pull down here, I can see now I'm spending $1.05 for 21 Office Monkeys. This is what got written into the database. Now, if somebody's doing back-end validation, they'll definitely catch this and they'll flag this as being shoplifting. But it's just an example of how shoplifting can happen. So I'm going to highlight this data so it's all blue, and then I'm going to go back over and I'm going to grab another screenshot by doing a print screen. And I'm going to go back over to my WordPad here, and I'm going to enter in my second screenshot showing that this data has been modified. So now at this point, the data is written incorrectly, and we have just shoplifted a couple of things. Now we didn't completely shoplift because we're spending $1.05, but this was pretty bad. So websites that have hidden fields are still susceptible of people manipulating the values within those hidden fields. So I know a lot of students think, oh, it's hidden, it's good, I can't see it, it can't be changed. What I really want to draw your attention to is just because there is not a fill-in box for people to type into like this doesn't mean that that value can't be manipulated. So before I use the word get and post, so when I type in a value like Joe and Wetzel and I type in a value here, when I say commit to buy, or when I click buy now, these values are getting sent up to the server. Now if I look at my address line here, it's just a page. It's called review.php. Alright, so it posted the value without passing it in the URL. If you go to a website like, let's just go to Google, and at this point I can actually see right here I've got a question mark and it's GWS underscore RD equals SSL. That's using a get. If I search for cars, I've got a whole query string here, and all the values, instead of being posted, they're using get. So I've got a question mark, and I've got a whole bunch of stuff here. I don't even know really what everything means in here. I do see my search phrase of cars, so if I change that to boat and hit enter, I'm changing my query string, which ends up changing the web page. So the query string is what's using a get method, and technically a get method definitely is easier to hack because anybody can just type in here and start manipulating this. And so um, I could change this from HP to Dell, and I'm going to submit that. Now, I don't know what that did, but Google's keeping track of everything. So we're just pasting different values in here. But anyways, that's what a get method is versus a post method. So that's really our lab. So what I'm putting at the bottom of the lab is at the bottom of your Word document, please write a short paragraph describing the dangers of unchecked source code. Well, that's dangerous no matter what. So source code needs to be validated and verified, and somebody needs to actually pen test it to make sure there's no hidden fields. And if there are hidden fields, what happens if those hidden fields are modified by a hacker? What are some other areas of the web that could be vulnerable? So specifically, we're talking about the query string. If you're using a query string, that could be vulnerable. If you're using the hidden, obviously that's vulnerable. But also things like cookies. If you're stashing something in a cookie, the user can always go like Tools, Internet Options, and then they can go to their settings. And then within the settings, they can go to their View Files. And in here are all of the different values that are being held. So things like JavaScript. JavaScript is something that could be vulnerable if you're doing some type of logic within JavaScript because that's client side. PHP is server side. I don't see the PHP code, but JavaScript is client side, so the user could manipulate that. So JavaScript is vulnerable. In cookies, the cookies are stored down here. So here's some cookies, and you can right click and you can open it, and you could change these values, and if these values have been manipulated and saved, next time you go to that web page, it may do something, or it will do something different than what was previously intended to have happen. So just different things to think about. Sometimes I get worried when I see people doing just client-side code. So if I go back to our original web page here, if a username exists, or a password exists, or an ID exists, I click on buy, and all that validation is only being done using JavaScript. Somebody can disable JavaScript and they can get around that validation. So you always need to make sure anything the user can touch, the user can hack. So JavaScript, cookies, hidden values, something like that. We just need to be careful for them. So anyways, hopefully this put a little light on how e-shoplifting works and some safe practices.